Is Brad Sayler from Octopus T-Mobile.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Brad Sayler, and I serve as the Head of Rideshare Media for Octopus Interactive, a unit of T-Mobile Advertising Solutions. Since 2018, Octopus has provided interior advertising screens to over 100,000 rideshare drivers, with over 10,000 driver partners operating in and around New York City. Although we do not currently show ads or make ad revenue in New York City, we've continued to pay drivers according to the compensation system we use in other cities. To preserve this important stream of driver income, it is critical that we have a clear path to obtaining an interior advertising provider license. The proposed rules, as currently written, impose numerous unnecessary restrictions that will severely limit the ability of for-hire vehicle drivers to earn additional income through in-car advertising, casting doubt on the viability of the entire business model. First, it appears that many of the TLC's proposed rules were pulled directly from Chapter 66 of the TLC's rules that govern licensing and rules for technology system providers. Technology systems are very different from interior advertising systems. Taxi technology systems include payment and credit card machines, as well as systems that track particular trips. They are commonly fixed inside a taxi that multiple drivers may use. On the other hand, interior advertising systems do not accept payment information, do not track particular trips, are easily removable, and are assigned to specific drivers rather than vehicles used by multiple drivers. The relative simplicity of interior advertising systems should be reflected by simplifying rules related to license registration, cybersecurity, contractual requirements, hardware and software reviews, and tablet functionality requirements. Please refer to my written comments for specific onerous rules that would make operating an interior advertising system overly time-consuming, expensive, and impractical. Importantly, technology system providers make a significant portion of their revenue from payment processing, which supports their ability to comply with complex rules. Interior advertising systems only generate advertising revenue, and this, by itself, will not justify the high price of complying with the proposed rules. Second, the TLC's proposed rules misunderstand the leading driver compensation model and would reduce drivers' prospective earnings. The rules contemplate drivers making 25% of each ad played, whereas in practice, drivers often make much more. Our drivers earn continuously as they drive with the device, even when ad revenues are very low. This results in a more reliable and greater income stream than a traditional revenue share. The proposed rules also contemplate itemized receipts, granular revenue share reporting, as well as reference weekly and hourly and shift payments. These concepts do not align with the operations of FHV drivers or a well-accepted compensation model. Finally, the rules misunderstand advertising industry norms in that they require affirmative express consent for basic ad location targeting. Such an unnecessary and atypical message would completely block the industry from operating. Also, a similar affirmative consent provision does not appear in Chapter 66 for taxi advertising.
Your time has expired. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Hi, I've used the Octopus tablets, especially my family appreciates it on longer trips.
Wonderful.
Because it's such an interactive tablet that you provide, are you able to provide information to what extent do passengers interact with the tablets that are in your vehicles?
Yeah, sure. So from surveys we've run, I think it's important to note that 99% of drivers say that the tablets provide entertainment for their passengers. It is the number one reason that they use the tablets. Number two, a close second, is the earnings that they provide. In terms of actual interactivity, about a third of passengers actually touch it. Another third of passengers kind of passively watch the videos, and the other third, do not actively engage with it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate your time.
It will be fairly basic. I think that's something that we would always consider in the future. It would be more up to Uber than us. We provide the hardware; they are going to be running the software. But I do think the foundation of these rules would allow for a conversation with you all before something like that goes into place in the future.
Yeah. Thanks.
So hypothetically, we write a rule that is very simple, that tipping must be required within the interior advertising ad. Well, what happens?
we would be unable to do business in New York because then we have to create an entirely separate credit card payment information mechanism that precludes our operation. I think allowing for tipping and making sure it's okay if connected to the core for hire app, then that makes sense. But requiring it would be a total non-starter.
And you see the complication here, right? Of
Yep.
tens of dozens of drivers asking for tipping into your platform. And yet what I'm hearing is it would be impossible. And so we're having to balance that.
I very much appreciate the position you all are in. For us, it would force us out of market, and then there would be no advertising revenue or passenger entertainment in the back of the cars. So I also do not think it would be very often used when a very easy tipping mechanism is sitting right there in their app. So why would they tip totally outside of that?
All right. We'll think about that throughout the rulemaking process.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Andrew, we'll chat.
Thank you.
I just think what you just said when he said we're not the same thing. He said tipping is easy in the app, easy if it's through the apps, but very hard if it's by credit card. That's different than you just said. So if we allow tipping, the whole system breaks down. He's saying, please allow tipping. Just if you required it through the credit card, it causes some trouble. But if you connect it to the app, it doesn't. Am I getting that right?
Tipping, as long as connected through Uber, Lyft, or another company app, is acceptable. A separate tipping mechanism via credit card entry.
Come back up to the
I'm going to keep listening.
Sure.
So answers.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we believe the rules should allow for tipping so long as it does not require a separate credit card entry or payment mechanism on the tablet itself. And thus, that the only way to really achieve that would be connected to Uber or Lyft's back-end systems and follow their tipping
And so
mechanisms.
are you able to connect through both? Like, so then we require, let's say, like, this is hypothetical. We require that you connect through an API with Uber and Lyft as part of the rulemaking process, right? We're not requiring you to collect any payment options, but just have the ability that whatever companies or bases you contract with, that there has to be an option for tipping within the app.
That is more of a question for Uber or Lyft to answer than us. You couldn't necessarily require us to do that. You would need to require them to do that. I do think
But it's possible.
I think if it was required, we would all need to take a step back. But then it would require all these other companies, as well as Uber and Lyft, to spend lots of time connecting with each other, creating legal agreements with each other,
And with you.
technical integration. Correct. So I think it would be very challenging, but I cannot speak to whether you can require those companies to do that or not.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Speaker today is Andrew Greenblatt from IDG.
Director of the Independent Drivers Guild. I submitted a formal written testimony yesterday, and I brought copies of that today, so I'll speak informally from the podium. Basically, first I want to thank Councilmember Farias for backing this bill and really making it happen. She's been a champion of the drivers on this issue, and we all owe her a debt of gratitude. So broadly speaking, we think that the proposed regulations do a good job of protecting drivers and doing what the company intended to do. We have one large and one small suggestion. Broadly speaking, though, it makes sure that drivers get a fair share of the gross revenue from the companies. It makes sure that the companies have to disclose the information to the TLC to make sure that rule can be enforced, and so on. The two concerns we have, one is pretty easily fixed, and that is that you allow the companies to do electronic contracts with the drivers. We would just ask that you add a phrase that requires the companies to then make a copy of that electronic contract to be sent to the driver, so they can have it if they ever need to fight with the companies over this. And we, as their advocates, can also get access to the contract that was signed by the driver in the time. I think that's an easy fix and easy for the companies to do. The second one, though, is much more important and broader, and that is the regulations appear to prohibit tipping to be allowed to be done through the tablets. So in other cities, for example, Los Angeles, the way it works is drivers get the tablets, the ads are run, drivers get a percentage of the revenue. But if you step into a step into a car that the tablet is provided by a company that's affiliated with either Uber or Lyft, and you are a passenger going through that company, the tablet will recognize that you are, one of their passengers, and during the trip, they will give you the opportunity to take care of your tip right there, rather than when you're running off and forget about it and so on. They also do things like they'll have allow the drivers to provide a brief biography of themselves. So this person, instead of just being back of a head, it's like, oh, this person has a family, they're doing these things, whatever. And that also can increase tips. What the companies have informed us, we haven't seen the data, but what the companies have informed us is that increase in tip amount is greater than the amount of money they get from the ads. And so that's what we were lobbying on.
30 seconds.
Thank you. That's what we were lobbying to legislators about. So we believe that when legislators voted for this, their intent was to make sure that money went to the drivers, since that is the bigger share. And these regulations actually take the bigger piece of the money off the table. We before you pass any regulations, we want to make sure you fix that. It doesn't require passengers to put in any new information. They don't have to take out their credit cards, nothing like that. It just ties back into the systems where all that information is already kept.
Your time has expired. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Andrew? I have a quick question, Andrew. So if a company, an advertising company, is not affiliated with any of the high volumes or even the community bases, Black Car or otherwise, how would we technically write in the rules to be able for them to connect to, let's say, community car base X or Uber or Lyft?
So if you wanted to allow those companies to do this, I think it'd probably be easier if you did allow people to just put in their payment information right into the tablet, and then the tip, since the tip isn't a part of the formal fare, the tip could just go through the company system to the driver. You would then want to write into the regulations to make sure that 100% of the tip did go to the driver in those cases.
So would it be that X interior advertising company would have to have a relationship with Uber, with Lyft?
No.
Okay, so.
No. So what you could do, so let's say a new company wanted to come into the market and wanted to compete with the companies that are owned by Lyft and Uber. The TLC could write regulations, and in fact, I would encourage you to, that allowed that company to let people process tips through their tablets. The company would then have to have some form of some way of accepting payment. So to do that, and then the driver would already have an account with that company because they're getting the revenue from the ads, and so they could just add on to that 100% of the tip. So it's like, this is how much you got in ad revenue, this is how much you got in tip revenue.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Andrew. Any other questions?
Yes.
So it's separate and apart than the tipping inside this app.
Right, exactly. But the TLC doesn't regulate tips in the same way it regulates fares, and so that would be fine that it went through a parallel system. You would have no concerns in those cases.
All right. Any other questions for Andrew? Thank you so much, Andrew.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.